Well, my next guest has an interesting resume, I suppose, a good way to put it. 10 days in July. That's the amount of time he served in the Trump administration. 10 days. Man, top of mind, top of the fold, making the headlines, and then gone. Anthony Scaramucci is a financier, author, and former political figure. He joins me now. Anthony, good to have you here. Nice to see you.
Steve, it was 11 days. Don't chip me out of that last day. I mean, that was a big day. I got fired on that last day.
Yeah.
Big day.
What did you get fired for?
Do you know? I mean, listen, the president and I didn't see eye to eye on a few things, and he fired me, and he had that right. I mean, I never blamed anybody for my firing other than myself. You know, it's a hard job to be president. He wanted to do it a certain way, as you know. There were people in the White House, myself, General Kelly, H.R. McMaster, many others didn't see it the same way that he did. And there was, I got fired very famously, but there were probably 80 or so people that either left or got fired in a very short period of time. I'd say over like a 24-month period of time.
Sure, people were moving in and out, and you were one of those. Yeah, you were famously or infamously fired, however that goes. Look back now. I want to tell people the brand new book, by the way, is From Wall Street to the White House and Back, the Scaramucci Guide to Unbreakable Resilience. So, look, you're still here. You're still standing. You still raise a lot of emotion for people, even though you only served 11 days, not 10, 11 days. Reflect on it now. When you look back, you look at Donald Trump, you look at all the things that have happened in America here, especially to the former boss here last week, convicted of 34 felonies in New York that I don't think most people, Democrats included, can figure out what the crime was, right? What do you look at? What do you think about it?
Well, let's break it up into different categories. I think the country's gotten coarser. I don't think you can blame President Trump alone for that. I think there's been polarity brewing in the country. I'm not a political scientist, but I could take you back to the Newt Gingrich situation, the Contract for America in 1994. Both sides were butting heads. And then you had the Bush versus Gore election, which was narrowly contested and eventually won in the Supreme Court. And I think for the last 25 years, we're going hard at each other. And we need to find transformative leadership that will help us find ways to unify and express more commonality that we have among ourselves. 9/11, there was probably a 3-month period of time, Steve, Stephen, where there was some togetherness, but by and large, sure. We're polarized and we're going hard at each other. I think, Mr. Trump is a tough guy, and I think he's exacerbated that. Again, I'm not blaming him. He's part of it. So that's segment one. Segment two on the case. I never liked the case. I didn't think the case was the right case to bring. There's some concerns even about the statute of limitations related to the case. I think, however, when a case like that is brought and you get 12 private citizens who are not politically affiliated and frankly not politically motivated, and they adjudicate the case the way they did, I think it's very hard to stress the criminal justice system the way it's now being stressed. It's almost like a partisan divide.
Well, it is a partisan divide, and we know that the instructions given by the judge in this case basically guided, if it didn't direct, it guided and nudged people along in a certain direction for a specific outcome. It's not going to stand up on appeal. I think we all know that. When you look at the race, though, you've got Joe Biden, who by anybody's measure has declined as a human being. And it's not. I'm not taking a shot at him, but he's 81 years old. He has declined as many 81-year-old people do. You've got Donald Trump, loved by many, hated by others. When you see this race, how do you size it up?
Well, listen, I think 85% of the American people don't want either of these people, right? I mean, that's the category where both candidates are disliked by the American people. They want different choices. But faced with these choices, again, I can just give you my opinion based on my observations of what I saw in my 60 years on planet Earth and my love for America. I don't want the system to break. When somebody's calling for the deportation of 15 million people, where I guess you got to get handmaid's tale armored vehicles into the country to mobilize them around the country to do something like that. When somebody's suggesting in their political advertising that they want a rise of a unified Reich, when somebody's suggesting
No,
that
no, no, hold on. I mean, in
oh,
fairness here, you can't keep
you're
15 million people in the country illegally. You can't. Cities are breaking.
so okay.
Middle
So hold
schools
on,
and
Steve.
elementary
Steve,
schools are
step
breaking because
step
they
back for a
can't
second.
speak English. Go ahead.
So step back for a second. So you answer the question, and so you want armored vehicles in your neighborhoods
I
pulling
want
people out of their.
solutions. I mean, I just talked to a man who came here legally from Vietnam, served in the U.S. military for 25 years, is completely outraged by the fact that our border is open, and it is, despite anything that said it is wide open. And we have millions of people coming in. I have violent crime like Lake and Riley being murdered in Georgia. I have Ruby Garcia being murdered in Michigan by people illegally. I have bands of
So,
gangs that are breaking into homes in
no,
Southeast Michigan
we're
and
not disputing
Chicago and
you.
Los Angeles. These things
You're,
cannot continue. It's not
you're
sustainable in any
okay.
measure.
You're asking a couple different questions at once. So let's take them one at a time. Okay. I don't want the system to break. I believe in the system, and I believe in the decentralized nature of the government and the separation of powers. Mr. Trump does not stand for that.
Well,
Mr.
neither does
Trump
Mr.
did not.
Biden.
He does though, but Mr. Trump did not concede the last election. Okay, you seem like a common values Eagle
I
Scout
am.
sort of a person. Do
Well,
you think that Mr. Trump should have conceded the election, or do
I
you
think that
believe
Hillary
in the
Clinton could have
election
conceded the
lie?
election as well. Hillary Clinton spent the last 8 years talking about Russian collusion and other nonsense, right? So,
But
on
you're
balance,
doing. Hold on a second, sir. You're doing whataboutism. Let's.
well, these things
It
matter.
sounds like we're going to have a
Whataboutism
healthy
matters.
debate.
A
Well, you got to let me talk. We're going to have a
comparative.
healthy debate. It's your show, but you got to let me talk.
I
We're going to have a
understand.
healthy debate.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so the question before you is this guy, did he concede the election? Forget about Hillary Clinton. She was not the president. She lost the election. Mr. Trump did something classically un-American. He wouldn't concede the election. He wouldn't help his
Let me ask
success
you a question,
story.
Anthony. Let me
So
ask
you're
you a question.
interrupting me. Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
let me ask you a question.
It's your show. Go ahead, Steve.
You say he didn't concede the election.
He
Did he
didn't.
did he get on his plane and fly to Florida on January 20th,
Well,
2021?
he was forced to do that, but he never made a
Forced by
concession
whom?
speech.
At gunpoint? No, he got on his plane and he
No,
left.
I think he was, yes, he was told by the Secret Service that if he didn't leave the White House, they would have to forcibly remove him from the White House. You also have to remember that he's got his chief
To
witness
me,
for the
that's conceding the election, but go on.
Steve, you're obviously it's like a conservative show, and you have a certain base that you're
No, I
trying to
don't. You see,
feed
that's the
this
thing.
stuff to, and I understand that. But
I'm not a
let's have an
Republican. I'm
honest
not a
debate.
Democrat.
If you're inviting me on the show, sir, could we have an honest debate about it? And
Yeah,
can
but
I
he left the
deliver
White House.
facts
You're
on your
saying he
show?
did. Go
Hold
ahead.
on, sir. Am I allowed to deliver facts on the show? If I'm not,
Go
let's
ahead.
stick to the Republican talking points. Many of them,
I
which
don't
are
have
laced
Republican
with
talking
lies.
points. That's just
No,
silly.
but they're laced with lies. The guy didn't concede the election. He did not help his successor with the transition. We've got national security issues all over the world. He forbid his staff from doing that. He didn't show up at the guy's inauguration. And on the 4th and 5th and 6th of January, there's a case in the criminal justice system related to Donald Trump fomenting and premeditating an insurrection at the nation's capital. And
All right,
let me
now
just finish.
hold that thought
Mark,
right there.
Mark Meadows is the chief witness. It's not a Soros-sponsored
Hold that thought. If you-
African American prosecutor.
I'm going to give
This
you a
is
whole
white
much,
guy
a
that's
whole
a
much more time.
Christian
Hold
from
on,
the
time out.
South.
Anthony, hold on. If you can hold for just 2 minutes, I'll give you a whole bunch more time because I think it's a good conversation to have because we come from a different point here and it's a good conversation. Sit tight.
Let's just talk about the facts.
All right, back now with Anthony Scaramucci, a financier, author, former political figure. It was with the Trump administration for 11 days. I was corrected on that. Has a brand new book, From Wall Street to the White House and Back, the Scaramucci Guide to Unbreakable Resilience. Anthony, you said here before we went to break that it was an insurrection, but nobody's ever been charged with insurrection for what happened on January 6th, which happens to be your birthday, ironically enough.
I was having a fun birthday up until then, but
right. But
okay,
Merriam,
listen,
hold on, let me finish. Merriam-Webster, by definition, says it's an armed uprising is an insurrection. Nobody's ever been charged with insurrection. It was not an armed uprising. Doesn't meet the definition according to the Wall Street Journal, according to Merriam-Webster. Go ahead.
Why is the president, sir? Why is the president being prosecuted for this case? It's an unfair, politically contrived witch hunt.
It's
So
politically.
give me
It's
your-
clearly
give me your
politically
talking
motivated. Clearly, it's
Okay,
not a
so
talking
he
point.
didn't do- he
Clearly,
didn't
what
do- he
happened
didn't
in
do anything wrong.
Manhattan.
So the chief witness for the prosecution is his chief of staff a white gentleman who's a Southern Christian conservative by the name of Mark Meadows. He's the chief witness for the prosecution. So he didn't do anything wrong in the case. So the government is just bringing this prosecution willy-nilly because it's a political contrivance.
Well, that's certainly what happened in Manhattan, according to Democrats and Republicans alike. Good friends
you're
of mine,
doing
liberal attorneys, believe that friends of mine believe that what happened in New York.
Listen,
now, hold on. You complain about me talking over you, and yet every time I try to talk, you cut me off.
You're not even letting me talk. But go ahead. Go ahead.
But I have. Michael Cohen was the key witness in this. It was a politically motivated event by Alvin Bragg in Manhattan. Pretty clear to anybody who's honest, was it not?
Oh, I said that. No, I'm an honest guy. I did not like the case. Did Trump commit that crime?
That's not the question.
He did.
The question was it politically motivated?
I just said that. I didn't like the case.
That's not saying it's politically motivated. It's a yes or no question.
No. I thought the case was politically motivated, and I did not like the case. I'm a very, very upfront guy.
And you don't think that about the other cases?
Is your kind of guy, though, Steve? I'm just asking you because you seem like a good guy with good Midwestern values, and you seem like an upright guy. This is your kind of guy that's raw dogging porn stars while his wife's home nursing their baby. This is your kind of guy. This is your kind of guy that told 30,450 lies in the White House. This is your kind of guy that told General Kelly that his son was a lackey for stepping on a landmine in Afghanistan. He told John Kelly to his face.
So Anthony, in fairness, you accuse me of sticking to talking points, yet you're regurgitating all the leftist talking points. Look, I'm not electing a priest or a pastor. I'm not electing a priest or a pastor. I'm electing a guy who will. I'm electing a guy who will enforce the southern border, who will take care of the economy, who will not get us entangled in Ukraine and other endless wars. That's why I'm not voting for a priest or a pastor.
You want to pull out of NATO? Is that what you want to do?
No, but I don't want to be in Ukraine. I do not want to be in Ukraine, and I want NATO to pay their fair share. I want NATO to pay their appropriate amount of money. I want that. I don't want to pull out, but I don't want to be in Ukraine.
He wants to pull out of NATO, Steve. He wants to pull out of NATO. He's made that very clear. He told Ambassador Bolton that. He told John Kelly that. He told Mark Milley that. He also suggested that he wanted to have Mark Milley assassinated. He said that at the podium at one of his events. Is that the type of guy you want running?
And see, here's the thing. These are hearsay talking points. Anthony, come on. You seem like a guy who wants to be honest, but you keep going to these talking points that are like, oh, I heard this, and here's that.
You're gaslighting your viewers and listeners,
Anthony.
Because
Come on.
Are trying to come up with a point of view. You're trying to take.
I'm not trying to come up with a point of view. I believe in a secure border. I believe in a good economy.
Because you know that this is one of the most dishonest guys that you've come across in America. You know that this guy is classically un-American. You know this guy is talking about disavowing the Constitution. He told
Sean Hannity that
he likes the fact of being a dictator. He praises autocrats around the world. And you sit there and you're trying to gaslight your listeners and viewers. And
I'm not gaslighting anybody. But you're amusing me well. You are amusing me.
Probably making you money to do that. But I got to tell you something. I'm not interested in the money. I'm a patriot first. Okay?
Then why'd you write a book?
Last. What's that?
Then if you're not interested in money, why'd you write a book?
Well, I wrote a book because I wanted to explain what happened to me. I've got 5 children. Those books generally don't make people a lot of money.
But you're out on the circuit here promoting that book to sell it. You're out on the circuit to promote the book to sell it.
Crichton, you don't really make a lot of money. No, I'm promoting the book because I want to get the ideas associated with the book out there to a lot of people, and I want to get the ideas associated with the book out, particularly my family members and my 5 children. They need to see that people can rise and respond to things that happen to them, setbacks along the way. And so, yeah, that's why I wrote the book. I didn't write the book for money because you can't make a lot of money off a book like that. You know that, and I know that. But I also want to be out on the circuit so that I can talk to people like you that are just out of control with the disinformation and out of control.
I'm out of control with disinformation. See, coming out and insulting people and insulting average Americans, I don't see how that's a plan. But you are. You're sticking to talking points. You're supporting a guy who wants to be a dictator, which I don't believe, by the way, which is absolute nonsense. If the guy wanted to be a dictator and didn't want to leave office, he wouldn't have left.
Seriously, what he's saying.
You talk over me at every point in the conversation. And you complain about, you say that I do that. Anyhow.
You didn't let me. It's your show. You didn't let me talk. So go ahead. Good. Why? How much more time do you have? You want?
I'll give you the
talk?
last. I'll give you the last word. Whatever you want.
No, I have nothing left to say. You go ahead. We're gonna go to the commercial break. Go ahead.
No.
I mean, but I got to tell you, you're supposed to be this Midwestern guy with all these supposed values. You're actually a very rude guy on your own show, which is fine. You can be that way. But when the guy loses the election, just do me a favor, invite me back so we can recap how bad he was and how he destroyed the Republican Party, a party that I have been a part of since 1982 when I registered to vote. So just do me that favor. Invite me back on your show. It'll be in November.
Come back anytime.
Trump will have lost the election, and then you and I hopefully can have a more civil conversation about how we can rebuild a center-right coalition that's more unifying, that's more traditionalist, and less hateful towards
But
people.
see, for the record, Anthony, and I'm going to give you the last word here.
Do that.
I didn't insult you one time during this conversation. You insulted me numerous times. That is the last word. Thank you for being here. Anthony Scaramucci, you come back anytime you want.
Really a ridiculous guy.
Ridiculous. I'll give you that. It was ridiculous. I'll be right back.